Tonight, someone you know will forget about you. Not because they hate you, not because you did anything wrong, but because they are busy thinking about themselves. And here is the uncomfortable truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Almost nobody is thinking about you. And strangely, that might be the most freeing realization you will ever have. Because the day you realize nobody is watching you is the day your life finally becomes yours. Most people grow up believing something that feels completely natural. They believe the world is watching them, watching how they speak, watching how they dress, watching every mistake they make. But imagine something for a moment. Imagine walking into a large room filled with mirrors. At first, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like eyes are everywhere, like people are staring at you from every direction. But after a few seconds, you realize something strange. There is no one else in the room, just reflections. You thought people were watching you, but most of the time, the only person truly watching you is yourself. This is where the first illusion breaks, because the fear that controls so many of your decisions is built on a misunderstanding. You think people are paying attention to you, but in reality, they are far too busy thinking about themselves. Think about yesterday. How many times did you replay something embarrassing in your mind? A moment you wish you could redo. Something awkward you said. Something you regret. You might have replayed it 10 times. Maybe 20. Now ask yourself something honest. How many other people replayed that moment? Almost none. Because while you were replaying your mistake, they were replaying theirs. Everyone is living inside their own mind. Everyone is the main character in their own story. And you are only a very small part of it. This sounds depressing at first, but stay with me, because this is where everything begins to change. Let me show you something most people never realize. You are afraid of failing in front of others. You are afraid of looking foolish. You are afraid people will remember the moment you fall. But imagine there is a camera pointed at you. You hesitate. You move carefully. You avoid risks, because you are terrified of making a mistake on camera. And then you discover something unexpected. The camera was never recording. Nobody is saving your failures. Nobody is documenting every mistake you make. Because the people you imagine judging you are dealing with their own fears, their own insecurities, their own mistakes. And suddenly, something strange happens. A weight begins to fall off your shoulders. The weight of performing. The weight of trying to impress people. The weight of living your life for an invisible audience. Here is a quote worth remembering. The audience you fear was never really watching. Look at how much energy people spend trying to look impressive. Posting the perfect photo, saying the right thing, crafting the right image. But here is the irony. The people they are trying to impress are doing exactly the same thing. Everyone performing. Everyone pretending. Everyone worrying about how they look. And almost nobody actually paying attention to anyone else. It is like a stage full of actors, but no audience. And once you see that clearly, you can step off the stage. You stop asking people for permission. You stop waiting for approval. You stop shrinking parts of yourself just to fit someone else's expectations. Because the truth becomes obvious. If nobody is watching, then nobody gets to control how you live. The moment you understand this, your behavior changes. You take bigger risks. You try things you once avoided. You say things you once kept silent. You stop living a life designed to impress people who barely notice you. Another truth appears at this moment. The people who do the most interesting things in the world, the writers, the creators, the builders, the thinkers, are not the people who waited for permission. They are the people who realized something simple. Nobody was paying enough attention to stop them, so they just started. And something else interesting happens. When you stop performing, you sometimes attract the right people. Real people. People who are not interested in the performance. People who are interested in the real you. Not many. Maybe 2. Maybe 3. But real. And even if nobody shows up, even if you walk your path alone, it is still worth it. Because a life lived for yourself is infinitely more meaningful than a life lived for approval. Let me ask you something honestly. If nobody was watching you, if nobody was judging your next move, if nobody was keeping score, what would you do differently tomorrow? What would you finally try? What would you stop pretending about? Think about that for a moment. Because the invisible audience that has controlled your life for years was mostly an illusion. And the moment that illusion disappears, something powerful happens. You finally become free to live a life that actually belongs to you, not the version shaped by other people's expectations, but the one you choose to build yourself. So now the real question is simple. Now that you know nobody is really watching, what story will you start writing next? Write it in the comments. Because the moment you stop performing is the moment your real life begins.